This is the VIP Podcast, Virginia in Politics. Let's listen to host Chris Saxman explore the personalities and policies that connect the Commonwealth. The VIP Podcast is brought to you by the VCTA, Broadband Association of Virginia, and Virginia Free. The views and opinions expressed here do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the VCTA and Virginia Free or our sponsors.
Well, good morning. This is Chris Saxman on the VIP Podcast, bringing along today two brand new VIPs to Virginia in Politics podcast, Delegate Clinton Jenkins and Delegate Wendy Gooditis. Say good morning, all.
Good morning, everybody.
There we go.
Morning. Thank you for this opportunity. Really appreciate it, and really can appreciate all the hard work that you're doing and your past work in the General Assembly. Really appreciate that, and so thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you. All in favor? See, bipartisan support right out of the gate. Nothing but love. Nothing but love. No, one of the things that I've always said about politics and people, especially those who serve and put themselves up for election, by and large, they're just wonderful people trying to make their communities better. And I'll say it right out of the gate, as I told you all before we went on, thank you for your service. It's not an easy time to be in politics, elected politics in particular, as partisan and as vitriolic as things have become, as nasty as they have become. I just want to thank you for having the desire and the willingness to step up and do the hard work that it takes to get elected. And therefore, I respect you out of the gate, no matter what happens there on policy differences. But let's jump into more current events. What's going on? We'll go to the gentlelady from Loudoun. And you're in a new district. Tell us about the new District 31, I believe.
Well, first of all, I am the delegate from Clark.
Oh,
I actually live in tiny little rural Clark County. And the reason I am so rudely correcting you is that the new district, actually where I live, no longer includes Loudoun. So where I live now is all of Clark County, I think a tiny piece of Frederick, and then a sort of the top. It grabs a bunch of Warren County, which is completely different because Warren County was not at all a part of District 10, which I represent now.
Right.
So District, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm blanking on this. I want to say 31. But
I think you're 31, yeah.
Yeah. So it is a totally different district. Let me tell you why I like the way it's drawn. I ran in 2017. One of the things I wanted the most was to fix the gerrymandering that was so prevalent and that actually created District 10 in a very gerrymandered way. And one of the things I objected to is the guidelines. You're supposed to use natural elements as geographical boundaries. And so I'm looking out my window now at the Blue Ridge, and at the bottom of that is the Shenandoah River. So the old district did not respect those boundaries. The new district respects the Blue Ridge as a natural boundary, which is great. Plus, it keeps a much bigger rural area together. So in terms, one of the other guidelines is keeping communities of interest together. And this new district does that. So that's new district.
I didn't take offense at all for being corrected by the delegate from Clark. As you're a delegate, district number 31, I'm in my 31st year of marriage, and I'm corrected all the time. nice to make that segue for the delegate from, is it Suffolk or Chesapeake? Where do you live, Clint?
Actually, I live in Suffolk.
There we go.
Suffolk on the borderline of Chesapeake.
Okay. And you won in 2019, defeating the House Appropriations Chairman Chris Jones, and have a slightly redrawn district. How is the new district on number 89, I believe?
Yeah, the 89 district has a 0.45 deviation. It can go in any way. All depends on who works the hardest. That's what this new district is all about. It's slightly different. It covers a lot of rural Suffolk and a large part of Chesapeake now. The majority of the voters are now in Chesapeake versus Suffolk, whereas in the 76, where Delegate Jones and I were, the majority of the voters were in Suffolk. So there is a shift right there. And but it's an exciting district. and it's there for the person who works the hardest.
There you go. It's a wonderful adage in politics. Let's talk about your districts and the upcoming elections in them, and then we'll go into policy. I want to set the frame for our audience as to what you're looking at, and when you're looking at your reelection. And the top questions when districts are changed as much as they are and the lines redrawn: are you running again, and are you staying in the same district, or are you moving to parts of the previous district? I'll go back to Clinton, then over to Wendy.
Well, I am running again, but I'm running in a different district. What has happened is, because of the redistricting, Suffolk now has an open senatorial seat, Senate District 17, which was formerly Senator Lucas' district. And now she has been redistricted out of Suffolk into a different district. And now Suffolk is open. So Suffolk is the majority district in the new 17th senatorial district. And once again, it encompasses all of Suffolk and my address. So being that the 17th district will not have a senior person, Senator Lucas, I have been asked to seek that seat, and I have graciously said yes. And the amazing thing is, in my current district, it is a 0.45 deviation. The senatorial district is only a 0.44 deviation.
Okay, so is this a first-time public declaration? Breaking news: Delegate Clinton Jenkins is running for the Senate of Virginia.
Oh, no. That's
come on. I mean, you could have said yes. You could have just flat out just told Saxman, yeah, I did. I announced on the show. No,
that's old news. That's old news.
That's old news. All right. Well, it didn't make short pump. So I'm out here in short pump, languishing without proper internet service, I guess. Well, that's exciting news, Clint. What made you run for the Senate, aside from people coming to you? And that's always a talk before someone makes an announcement. People approach you. I mean, that was some of the sufferings I had back in 2008 around the Senate campaign myself. Chose not to do it, but you've jumped into the Senate to replace in that district number, I guess, Senator Louise Lucas, who is now pitted against Lionel Spruill.
Yes. Basically, currently in the district now, I am viewed as the senior person on the Democratic side. And so person who wanted someone with experience, who's been there and that's able to galvanize the district as a whole. My prior experience as the 3rd Congressional District Chair, Vice Chair for the 4th Congressional District, been around for a while. And so they wanted someone who will really work and get out and have the experience to getting the job done and to galvanize people and bring them together. And
wow, that's very exciting. So you're going for the big pay increase. If you win the Senate, there's a pay increase of $358 a year. What do you intend to do with that largesse?
I'll tell you what, most of the time that's spent before you get it.
For the audience, the House, if memory serves, makes a whopping $17,642 before taxes. The Senate makes $18,000 a year. So that's just, that's a couple extra burgers there, definitely. Let's go over to Wendy Gooditis.
Extra gas money. It's extra gas money to cover the district.
Do you really want to open up that box of worms there? I don't think so. let's not do. I can do gas prices all day long. Let's go. Delegate Gooditis, are you staying in the new 31st and Clark County?
Well, I am certainly not moving. And if you saw where I live, you would understand why. We have some horses. I'm a lifelong horsewoman. And at one point I was an international level equestrian competitor. So that's a big part of my life. And it's just so beautiful. And we raise our kids here, and no, I'm not moving. However, my personal opinion is that there will not be House elections this November. I just believe it's too late for that. So I'm betting that they're not happening this year. And given that, I feel like it's too early for a decision. So
is that right? So you're not you haven't decided.
I'm not there yet.
You're not there yet. That's very interesting. And I have to tell you, you have probably the most beautiful backdrop I've ever had on a Zoom call to date. It's lovely. I'm from the Shenandoah Valley myself originally, so I totally appreciate your backdrop. And if I remember, Wendy, from our first conversation in, I want to say 2017, the middle of 2017, when you were running for the House of Delegates against then Delegate Randy Minshew, mental health was a big issue in your campaign because of your personal proximity to it, tragedy in your family. What work have you done on this? I know you've done a lot of work on it. Let's update the audience on what you have done and what you think still needs to be done.
Well, it's such a huge problem. It's hard to, so that in a very general way, to just support all the work that all 140 of us in the General Assembly are trying to do towards it. In a more specific way, one example is that Winchester City, which the city itself is Winchester City and Frederick County and Clark County, this area is served by the health system called Valley Health. Mm-hmm. 6 hospitals, Winchester Medical Center being one of them, and our wonderful law enforcement from all these, the sheriffs and the police chiefs. And those organizations have requested a crisis center, a 16-bed crisis center, so that law enforcement has a place to put people who are in crisis where they can stay, and it might just be 48 hours until they come down off the drug or the alcohol or, whatever it is. It might be a few days to give time to find the right bed for them elsewhere in Virginia or, or at one of the hospitals. And so it's, as we know, the desperate need for beds for people suffering mental illness it's just gotten so bad in Virginia. And if we can invest what really is not a huge amount of money in comparison to our state budget into local crisis centers, that could go a big way to alleviating some of the pressure from especially our law enforcement, who are being asked to do the most insane things, not intending to be funny with the word insane, but
certainly no pun intended.
The craziest things about driving them for hours and hours and hours and to get to a bed, and the shifts, and then that means that maybe the local shifts are that the other law enforcement officers have trouble finding enough time to cover for those people. It's really, really tough. So anyway, Delegate Bill Wiley, who represents Winchester and part of Frederick County, and I put in a budget amendment, and we believe that it's in both the House and Senate budgets, and we are crossing our fingers that will go through as soon as we vote on this budget. And maybe it can be an example of a way to alleviate pressure. So that's a specific example of how I'm trying to help.
Good for you. Clint, what have you been working on in particular for your district that you want to go now to the new Senate district and say, see what I've done? I've done this X, Y, and Z. You went to mute on us.
There's some things that I need to go and touch up on. Medicaid. One of the first things I did when I got to the General Assembly was submitted legislation to make sure that everyone who has Medicaid has access to dental care. At first, it was senior citizens and youth, but my legislation made sure that everyone across the spectrum, if you have Medicaid, you have access to dental and eye care. And I received some calls from the medical profession, as well as the Washington Post, stating that as a result of that, the medical industry, the dental industry is being overwhelmed from persons with needing dental assistance. And so we need to go back and add more funding to that, and just kind of tweak it a little bit so that all those persons out there that need that type of assistance that it is available to them. I believe currently now that if you have Medicaid, then there are only 2 days of the week allotted for the availability of that care. So I have to go back and tweak that. So that's one thing I'm gonna be working on. The other thing that I would like to work on is education.
Okay.
Education, assuring that our teachers get their wages, the wages that's due to them for what they do inside the classroom. They do quite a lot, making sure that our youth are prepared for tomorrow, for the future. So we want to make sure that we continue to strive and push to bring their wages up. But not only that, schools, new construction, building schools, making sure they're available schools. There's a challenge there. The conditions of our schools, our buildings. So we need to revisit that and make sure and come up with a system that is that can assure that the funding is available to help those areas that do not have the assistance or the funding
Right.
to get the funding that's necessary to build, improve their school systems.
Well, this is where we're coming into that rub area in policy and funding now that things are hopefully getting back to normal. Went through a very difficult 2 years as a country, as a world, and now the reports are that there are over 2 million people enrolled in Medicaid. With the expansion and with the pandemic and funding, that's going to be changing, and verifying eligibility for Medicaid patients is going to be difficult, not just time consuming, but difficult for people who are being taken off the Medicaid rolls, if you will. But also you have the leverage, the rub, I guess the rub's a better word, of education funding at the same time. And then because Medicaid's growing organically, and then we have the additional population. How do you see that playing out in the next 2 or 3 years, Delegate Jenkins?
I tell you, it's going to require a lot of research, and to put it together. It's going to require a lot of research, and that's what we're doing now. We're gearing up to preparing for it. Looking at the expertise, talking to the expertise out there in the field, and trying to come up with those solutions to deal with those challenges that we're going to be facing in the future. So we're already talking to the stakeholders and the experts out there, and trying to make sure that we are prepared. Because
we have this, large surplus right now, Delegate Gooditis. It's it's unprecedented. Most of the time you're fighting for more money to fund Medicaid and K through 12 and transportation, the core services. But now we have this, once in a lifetime, at least once in a generation, influx of money. And we're going to have these funding challenges in the future. And I think the battle is going to be between Medicaid and K through 12, especially. Where do you see things going, Delegate Gooditis?
So you said increase in population, and that's interesting because yes, Virginia is doing pretty well in population, although there's more and more an imbalance between Northern and Eastern Virginia.
Right. Yeah, I meant Medicaid population.
Medicaid population. So we must increase the reimbursement. Is that what the word I'm looking for? Come on, what's it called? For doctors, for the medical
Sure.
Because it's very hard to get the doctors to sign up to treat Medicaid patients. It's something we're going to have to do because our population is aging. The baby boomers are, the huge segment of the population, and are aging and are going to need the care. And not everyone's going to be able to afford it on a healthy retirement income. So we're going to have to encourage medical professionals to care for that population. I happen to believe that health care is a right. We all deserve health care. And it's pretty shameful in this country that there's so many thousands of people, even in Virginia, who struggle to get the care they need and deserve. So I think that Virginia is wealthy enough to do both. I think we can prioritize the well-being of our people. And for me, that includes feeding the hungry, housing people, providing housing that people can afford. Certainly healthcare, and education for kids. And that's why I got into this
Mhm.
political stuff, because I think that people deserve these things. To me, these are human rights.
Okay, and I guess it went back to the funding discussion of the coming, because in Virginia and most states, you can't run a deficit. You have to pay your bills. And the rub of Medicaid, if you want to, increase dental and you want to increase your population and feeding and housing and all the like, and you have the challenge of also funding K through 12. What do you do when that collides, or where do you find the revenue? What's your go-to area, Delegate Gooditis? What are your priorities?
Between those two things, they are both priorities.
Okay.
And I think we can afford both. I really do. I think we can afford both. And there are ways to do it. Certainly other states find ways to do it. I grew up in New Jersey, which, yes, is a very high tax state, very high tax. Virginia is a low tax state. Maybe there's a happy medium where we don't have people who can't afford to live, where we don't have people dying from illnesses that were preventable, treatable. We don't have children without dental care, without eyeglasses. I think we can do it if we decide we care.
What does that middle ground look like to you when it comes to you mentioned tax policy, the difference between New Jersey, which has large local property taxes, which funds their schools.
Right.
And then, so they don't have, I think their obligations are different. I don't know the Constitution is different than Virginia, but Virginia has, one of those mixes between the local and the state. But where do you see the happy medium getting to? That with the happy hunting ground, I think they would no, that's probably not the right analogy. That's probably not the right one at all. What's the happy medium here?
I don't really know. So I'm not on appropriations. I'm not on finance. I'm not on the inside of a lot of this stuff.
Okay.
And yet I would say that when companies like Amazon come into Virginia, when other big corporations come into Virginia, when their CEOs are making what their CEOs are making, I'm guessing that those companies could afford to pay more for the privilege of being here with our educated, intelligent workforce.
Okay.
There are ways, there are things that we could do.
Do you care to share, or you want to move that to another time?
What?
Do you care to offer? I mean, you mentioned corporate taxes, higher level income taxes. I think that's where you went. You didn't say it specifically, but just curious as to what would you look for potential solutions in funding? That's always the rub in politics, isn't it? It's like, okay, we've got all these great ideas. How are you going to pay for them?
It is the rub, but I think that if these were at the top of our priorities, we'd find a way to do it. I just don't think they're there. Like now, hopefully, as Delegate Jenkins was mentioning, hopefully school construction is, we finally started to make some progress there and look for ways to fund that. I think it's pretty clear that if we decide that this is our priority, then this is what we find a way to fund. Like teachers' salaries didn't get funded for a decade, and now we're finding ways to give raises to the teachers. I just think it's a question of prioritizing.
Okay. Delegate Jenkins, what do you see in the future as far as tax policies? There's been obviously Governor Youngkin has laid out a very aggressive tax program that's not being as well received by about half the legislature as the other. But what are your priorities on that?
Well, as Delegate Gooditis has said, I'm not on appropriation as well. But I will say this, is that currently we do have a surplus on hand, but we can't exhaust our surplus. We have to continue to find ways to keep the revenue coming in so it can replenish itself. If we just spend it and it doesn't replenish itself, then we find ourselves in a hole. When it comes to building new schools, at one time there was some discussion about allowing localities to have to increase their tax rates by 1%, something of that nature. I'm not sure of all the details, so that they could be responsible for school construction themselves. So there are some discussions out there, and there are some things that can be done. But for us, I think we have to continue to make sure that we don't exhaust our reserves, continue to build that. And the Senate currently has an excellent budget proposal to make sure our teachers get the pay they deserve, and that we can continue to assist with Medicaid, assisting the Medicaid.
Right.
So there are some plans out there. I just think that, like always, we have to sit down and negotiate and fine tune it, and work those things out.
Okay, so I think the proposal that was put forward, and if I'm not mistaken, it was Senator Jennifer McClellan, former housemate of mine, House colleague, not housemate, was a 1 cent increase on the sales tax by locality to help fund school construction. Is that something you favor?
Yes, it's needed. It's definitely needed. And I tell you, I don't think that that's a real challenge when we continue to bring jobs to Virginia and help persons with economic development, help businesses develop and strive. Make sure that there is a living, a good wage in Virginia. When we do those types of things, then persons will see that as beneficial and needed. So we do the groundwork, then that's durable.
Delegate Gooditis, the 1 cent added to the sales tax by locality to help fund school construction. Where were you on that proposal? I don't know if it came through the House or not, but is that something you could support?
Absolutely. In my first session, in my first term, in the summer, I drove down to all the way to the southwesternmost corner of Virginia and visited Delegate Kilgore's area, because everyone had talked about the need down there, and I wanted to see it for myself. And I spent a few days, and I met with everybody, the chair of the Board of Supervisors and the school superintendent, and the chair of the local mental health clinic, and UVA Wise, and it made me, and I visited several schools. And not only that, but I got driven past many little schools that were in the center of these small communities that were closed. And the school is the center of a community. If the school is closed, then the community has taken one more step towards being not functional. And I absolutely support this 1 cent to go towards school construction.
My sense is nationally, states are moving towards more of a consumption-based tax code that is more reflective of our sales, service-oriented economy versus a mid-20th century economy that was far more industrial and income-based. Now the generation of income doesn't come from much as income, and you see that inequality as well. But on the services and the goods side of our economy, begs the question: is that where Virginia should go as well? Move towards more taxing sales versus taxing income, and finding a balance there to compete with other states, Delegate Gooditis?
Well, I would guess so, but something else happened to the rural areas in this country, and that is the factory farms that essentially made it so hard for the small family farmer to make a good living. And in so many rural areas in Virginia, we are losing those family farms, the small and medium farms, right and left. And the ones that are hanging in there are not making a good living, many of them. And so many of the small communities, which we have small communities just dying.
Sure.
And a lot of that was the agricultural, not just the industrial economy, but the agricultural economy. And I'm on the Agriculture Chesapeake Natural Resources Committee, and really try to help farmers make a living because we need them. And one of the things we learned in the pandemic is supply issues. So if you want to eat, you better hope that we have a strong agricultural economy in Virginia, and one where farmers are not working a full-time job outside and then just sort of scraping by and producing some food for us. We need to support our farmers and our fisher folk, so that we can continue to eat even in times of crisis.
Completely agree on the general direction. Policies in this area are always difficult to come up with. Incentives work, as we know, and I think the small organic farming world is a burgeoning industry unto itself once we can get that off the ground, literally and figuratively, into the ground and off the ground, literally, to do that, because I see a lot more farm to table economies sprouting up, and it's encouraging in that regard. It's also, I think, good for the climate and good for carbon sequestration. Delegate Jenkins, where do you see tax policy going in the Commonwealth of Virginia?
Well, I tell you, like, I'll put it like this, like Delegate Gooditis has stated, we've got to find a balance. We've got to find a balance. The world is changing. The world is changing. There are all kinds of challenges out there now, from the pandemic, the war. And so we have to reassess things and think about our farmers. We definitely have to help our farmers. So education, school systems in a crisis, our roads, our bridges. There's so many different challenges out there now that we've got to go back and reassess things and see what's worked. Where can we move to the right or move to the left? You've got 100 persons in the House of Delegates, 100 bright minds, and we just need to sit down at the table and come up with some workable solutions that will help and to improve things and help person with a quality living. Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to shift into a little bit more personal, so our audience gets to know the delegates and the senators in the Commonwealth of Virginia, their elected officials. Delegate Jenkins, what's your favorite book?
Live Your Dream by Les Brown. and
Really?
Yeah, 2 books, and the other one is Who Moved My Cheese?
Well, I actually met John Leslie Brown, Les Brown's son, out in California several years ago. Wendy, what's your favorite book?
I'm pretty disgusting because I love to read all the classics over and over again. And I love to read history. And there's one, I love to read history of World War II.
Oh.
One that comes to mind is Bodyguard of Lies, which talks about the secret war waged in Britain that to undercut, the Nazi invasion. So just those are the kinds of things that I feel like there's enough real life drama in my everyday job that I like to escape.
So there's enough nonfiction that you don't need fiction, I guess, right? So I'm reading Eric Larson's The Splendid and the Vile about that time in England when they were working on those exact things. And I'll recommend to you both Operation Mincemeat on Netflix, which is a movie about the British deceptions to get the Nazis away from Sicily and over to Greece. Good movie, not a great movie, but a really good movie. Okay. Wendy, what's your favorite movie?
Oh boy.
My
family and I love the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Again, I live in fantasy land here. Yeah. And we raised our kids. They lived in this wild imagination in the world, in the woods, in the streams, in the fields. And so the Lord of the Rings movies went right along with that. So we have a tradition in our family that as soon as we can have fires in the autumn, we turn up all the lights, sit by the fire, and watch the Lord of the Rings.
That is an outstanding family tradition, and I congratulate you. Clint, what's your favorite movie?
I really don't have a favorite movie right now.
Couple off the top of your head, if you had to recommend a couple.
Well, if I had to recommend a movie to someone, I can't think of the name of it. It would be that movie with Mel Gibson in it when he deals with the Scots and
Braveheart.
Braveheart, that's it. Yeah, I would recommend Braveheart to anyone. I think I love that. I love that movie. Anything where they're dealing with kind of shaping the country, those types of movies, I like that kind of stuff. But yeah, Braveheart, Mel Gibson, that was one of my favorites.
Taking on the
I have to
bullies.
say, my maiden name is Wallace.
There we go. There we go.
All right, all right.
That's great stuff. Favorite TV show, Clint? What's your favorite TV show growing up?
Favorite TV show growing up was, believe it or not, it was The Electric Company.
The Electric Company.
Yeah, yeah.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, The Electric Company. I would when I came home from school, The Electric Company, that was my favorite show. Yeah.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. I've asked a lot of people that, and I've never heard Electric Company. I think it's fantastic. Wendy, how about you?
Well, growing up, I didn't watch TV because I was out on a pony. But my favorite TV show would probably have to be West Wing.
Really?
Oh, that was a good one.
You know, I'll tell a little humble brag story here. When I was in the house, a friend of mine got me a tour of the West Wing at night. On Wednesdays, they do private after hours West Wing tours, and my family and I, we took that, and I saw for the first time the West Wing in the West Wing. It was on the one of the security guards had it on the television. It was like the first time I ever got a chance to watch it, because I just never got a chance to raising kids. It's like, I've always heard it's great, but oh, there it is, and I'm in the West Wing. That was ironic.
And have you seen it now? Have you seen it since?
No, not really. I mean, I could have to go back to start watching it. I mean, I've seen bits and pieces in some shows, but not like, I've never binged it. I've never watched like entire seasons. I'm just not. Most of those. You know, Wendy, I stay away from contemporary political shows because when you live it, you don't want to come home and do it all over again. I just try to stay away from contemporary. I'll go back and I'll watch Darkest Hour about the bombing of London and Churchill coming. I'll watch that every other week, the movie itself. But watching those shows, I would probably go more towards Modern Family, something like that to binge. But that's just me. I get tired of the politics, and because when you start going in our world. But I will watch House of Cards. House of Cards I really liked. House of Cards I really liked, at least the first 3 or 4 seasons. We'll finish up on sports. I know you're an equestrian person. Wendy, what are your favorite sports teams? Do you follow anyone in particular?
Not a single one, but thrilled with Rich Strike's win of the Kentucky Derby. That was absolutely bloody incredible. And I watched the overhead view of that probably 10 times.
Isn't that amazing?
I just bought a new horse 3 days ago, and she's a thoroughbred off the track. That's what I love. And I have a field full of them. And
that's sports. That's sports. That counts.
That's where I am.
Clint, I don't know if you've seen the aerial view of the Kentucky Derby. Have you seen that?
Yes.
That is one of my favorite sports videos of all time. It's thrilling. It's absolutely thrilling. I get chills thinking about it right now.
It is. It's amazing.
Clint, what's your favorite sports teams in whatever sport?
Believe it or not, when I used to watch a lot of sports, it was the Pittsburgh Steelers. And diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan. See that guy right there? Yeah.
You know who that is?
Yeah.
No, who?
Franco Harris.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And tennis. I used to play tennis when I was in high school. My football coach considered himself giving me a gift, and he made me play tennis in high school, and it has stuck with me. And so I love to play tennis when I get an opportunity. But don't get the opportunity now to watch a lot of sports or play a lot of tennis. But those were my sports.
That's fantastic. For a Steeler fan like myself, who was born downtown Pittsburgh, and my whole family, my son lives there now. We were cheering when they were 1-13, True story. I still see myself in my grandmother's bedroom cheering on the Steelers when they were 1-13, because she loved Terry Hanratty. Before Terry Bradshaw. Anyway, this has been a really enjoyable conversation, and I wish you all the very best. And I hope the budget passes soon. Any clues as to what's going to happen there?
I wish I had a clue. but
There
I
are
don't.
none. There are no clues,
No
no
clues.
indication, no clues.
All right.
We
what
don't
about
even
what-
know when.
What about a clue on your House Democratic Caucus leadership race? What's going on there?
Well, it's a drama for sure, and you know, we will choose a new leader, and time will tell.
Any clues as to when that's going to happen and who it's going to be, Clint?
Well, I tell you, Chris, for me, being in the civic arena, working with churches and different things, leadership changes. Leadership changes, people changes, new ideas, things change with the times. And that's how I see our caucus. You have persons, new people in there, and they have new ideas, and you give them a chance to present it on the floor, and you go with the best ideas.
Okay. Sounds like the drama is going to continue, and since y'all are a part of it, I'm going to leave it to y'all.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for this opportunity.
That's y'all's burden to carry, not mine. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you. This has been a great conversation here at the VIP podcast, Virginia in Politics, brought to you by VCTA, the Broadband Association of Virginia. And as you can see behind me, there they are, Virginia Free, the nonprofit pro-business organization of Virginia, doing that since 1988. We hope you'll join us again on the podcast. And also, if you can, subscribe, like, and share on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Thanks for joining us.